Call of Duty Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1172, entitled The Elbaf I Admire. So a lot of interesting things go on in this chapter. It's a bit of a short chapter, however, but some cool things do happen. So we have Gaban, and he's talking to the new Giant Warrior Pirates about the three different invaders. He explains a little bit about the Arrow fruit, and then he goes off to explain Summers. And of course, he knows Summers a bit more intimately because he's fought him before, and we get another lore drop about the Thorn fruit. And this is the part in which we get a bit of a formal explanation. So, apparently, when Summers wraps somebody in thorns, he can make them transparent. And then it's like the children are wrapped in iron, causing them to hurt themselves if the thorns are tampered with in any way. And we know this from a few chapters back. So that makes a lot of sense. And then he goes over Killingham, and it seems like he knows the least about Killingham. He just knows about what he has seen, in which the nightmares of the people of Elbaf just become real things in the real world. So yeah, that's to be expected, because that's the most imposing ability that Killingham has. And the new Giant Warrior Pirates claim that they are going to stop the invaders. Oddly, Goldberg says a solution to stopping the invaders is eating them, which this is the first time in which we encounter giants committing cannibalism, or think about committing cannibalism. So that's, oof. I don't know about that, Chief. That's a little wild. But yes, the new Giant Warrior Pirates take the lift from the underworld and arrive on the scene in the Sun Realm. And that is when we see the Nidhogg and I believe another Draugr that looks a little bit like Dory causing havoc. And of course, these are nightmare creatures. This is when, too, we actually get to see our first full shot of the Nidhogg. And I am so thankful that I was right this entire time, and the Nidhogg is a traditional Western dragon. So yes, if Loki is a Nidhogg, this would make a lot of sense. It's a real deal four-limbed, two-winged dragon. So that's great. A lot to look forward to there. However, this is when Kashi comes on the scene and tells the new Giant Warrior Pirate that Baraki and Dory have been possessed. And this is also when we find out that Rodo has a little brother named Bjorn. And Bjorn was one of the students that were being guided by the Arrow. And he does have a similar haircut to Rode. So that's funny. I never thought he would have a little brother. I like that. That's good. So now every group has a bit more agency applied to them to solve the situation. That's when you see a big map of all the locations of all our groups here, which leads us into seeing Oimo and Ripley going off to save the children as well. So yes, Colin's mother is an active participant in saving him. That's very good. That's good. That leads us into a very peculiar thing that Jinbei says. He says that Brook went off somewhere. However, I don't see how he was able to move, because in chapter 1150 and in chapter 1151, we see that Brook is bound by the weird arrow cloths generated by Gunko. So I wonder how he was able to actually move, because he had it way worse than everybody else. So that's weird how he was able to get out of it. Then again, too, I guess he could just hop away and then astral project. We don't see his body in this shot. So he physically got up and went somewhere, or maybe just bounced somewhere and then astral projected to move around freely. Because yeah, we don't see him in the group. So that's weird. Really weird. But yes, Dory, Baraki, and the rest of the possessed giants are going on a rampage, but that is when someone picks up the Den Mushi, and Jarl gives his speech to the people of Elbaf. The Holy Knights are listening. Jarl gives a speech to Elbaf saying that Harold was killed by a demon, and it was Loki who took the anger of the people upon himself when he went out to sea. Jarl held his tongue as well, because he didn't want Elbaf to fall into another war with a great power. which was against the wishes of King Harold. However, today Elbaf is being subjugated, or at least this subjugation is trying to commence by 3 other demons, and they, Elbaf, will stand against these demons and protect the peace that Harold treasured so much. This is when Jarl himself makes a firm declaration to stand against the world government. However, when he is talking, of course, Usopp is swooning over his speech, but that's when Zoro says, "I like this geezer." Haruden replies, "I bet you do. 300 years ago, he was known as the strongest being to ever hail from these waters." Okay, all right. Well, the chapter's over, so we can talk about that. So, this is a big mom boon, because as history is telling us, from what we see from Bragi and Dory, it is very likely that Yorl, not Jarl, but Yorl, was Jarl's equal. So both of them were the strongest beings potentially on the sea at the time of their prime, meaning that seeing as how Jarl is 408, that means he was 108 back then, which is a little younger than what Bragi and Dory are now. So that's something to think about. That's something to think about indeed. That means Big Mom killed a legendary giant in killing Yorl. That's insane when you think about it. Also, I want to see the world now that Jarl and Yorl came from, because if he was the strongest being, what does that mean exactly? Was he stronger than Whitebeard? Because it's weird that after he retired, Bragi and Dory didn't take up that mantle, Whitebeard did. Edward Newgate. So I wonder what that means exactly. How formidable was he? Also, the legendary blade being held in his head now makes a lot of sense. It's not just giant physiology. He can function like that because he's a monster. I didn't see that coming. What a turn. I didn't think that would be the case, yet here we are. So that is a fascinating concept, that he was once the strongest being on the seas, most likely with Yorl. How fascinating. This also brings into question just how strong Harold is, because he was able to just javelin pierce a sword through this man's head, through his helmet. And then on top of that, Loki was able to kill Harold. So in a way, this is both a Loki boon and a Big Mom boon, because it is weird too that those two characters are related to one another. Oh wow, this is all coming full circle, because okay, Loki killed Harold while he was being possessed by Emu. So technically he was the strongest that he has ever been, and yet he was able to fully smash, or I guess claw away, that immortal body with just his Haki and Devil Fruit. So, man, the amount of lore being placed on Loki has to be for something. I can't imagine he just becomes a minor character as the story commences. But also, what's very funny about all this is that I don't think that the new Giant Warrior Pirates are going to be treated in the same way as the Giant Warrior Pirates or the band that Yorl and Jarl led way back in the day. I don't think we'll have a dual captain situation, because the narrative divide is pretty clear, and Loki is more important than his brother Haruden. It is what it is. Even though Haruden has been on screen longer, Loki has stolen the show, because there is no way Loki and Haruden are equals. It's impossible, because Haruden was not able, in no stretch of the imagination, to do what Loki did to Harold. It's just not possible. Matter of fact, Haruden was beaten to death by a large fat man in Dressrosa. So it's not looking good for Haruden. I don't know. I'll just say, I don't know. Remember Mogwais? Got his arm crushed by Mogwais. I don't know, bro. I don't know. But yeah, Loki and Haruden are not equal, so I do think still Loki is probably going to join the crew. I'm holding on to that very, very tightly because this starts to not make sense. I believe Jarl and Yor was strong. I can believe that, which is crazy, but to say that Loki and Haruden are equals, no, that ship has sailed long ago. But doesn't seem to be a break next week, which is good. So with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede. What's it?